Good, happy Sunday evening, November 8th, 2020. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Sunday evening edition of the news with Riley King. We have a lot of news to get to this Sunday evening, so let's begin. First up, let's take a look at your COVID-19 update from Johns Hopkins University and Medicine. And here is a look at that COVID-19 updates for all of you right now. As you can see, global cases is 50,282,709. US has 9,949,530. Global deaths has 1,254,453. US deaths is 237,542. Deaths in recovery 33,649 deaths and 80,494 recovered. And that is a look at your COVID-19 updates from Johns Hopkins University and Medicine. Cuomo, mistake for GOP not to acknowledge apparent Biden win. Naomi, it's permanent and premature. We should give President Trump his day in court, said South Dakota Governor Naomi. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said Sunday he thought Tuesday's election was about a rejection of President Donald Trump and that it is a mistake for Republicans not to acknowledge former Vice President Joe Biden's apparent win. While separately, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem continued to cast doubt on the election results. Take a listen to the video from ABC News this week with Andrew Cuomo. Let's take a look at that video right now.
And what is your read of the mandate of this election? When you pour over the results from across the country, we've had discussion about that this morning. What's your read on that?
Look, I think it's right what some of your earlier guests said. There's a message for both parties in all of this. But I think the overwhelming message was it was about President Trump. And the country rejected the negativity, the personality, the controversy. He did everything he could, George, to divide the nation, right? He disunited the states of America. And Joe Biden is the exact opposite. You heard him speak from his heart last night. That's who he is. He's an authentic person. He's about finding commonality, which is an affirmative effort. You know, we are different in this country. And we can very easily factionalize. And that's what Trump played on, divide and conquer. Religious issues, racial issues, the gun issue, the abortion issue, the immigration issue. It was all about dividing America. You'll see Joe Biden is going to be all about that affirmative effort to find the commonality, the cord that connects. I think that's what it was about. I think there was also a general disdain for Washington when people's lives are under real stress and they're having real challenges. They're pointing fingers in Washington. And if there was ever a time in history not to do it, now was the time.
Okay, and there you go on that video from New York Governor Andrew Cuomo talking about the election and things. Now let's take a look at this video from North Dakota Governor Kristi Noem and hear what her take is on this election and things.
COVID COVID is rising in your state as well. Cases are up, hospitalizations are up, deaths are up. Are you prepared to work with President-elect Biden to get it under control?
Well, it is a regional increase that we're seeing. We are testing more. And frankly, George, I'm not going to take advice from Governor Cuomo. He has the second worst death rate per 100,000 people in this nation. He's at 173 deaths per 100,000 per capita. South Dakota's at 54. I appreciated that President Trump gave us the flexibility to do the right thing in our state, and will continue to do that. He let me do my job. But the other thing that I think is going on here, George, is that this is all premature. This is a premature conversation because we have not finished counting votes. There are states that have not been called. And back in 2000, Al Gore was given his day in court. We should give President Trump his day in court, let the process unfold. Because, George, we live in a republic. We are a government that gets its power from the consent of the governed. That is the people. They give their consent on Election Day. Election Day needs to be fair, honest, and transparent. And we need to be sure that we had an honest election before we decide who gets to be in the White House the next 4 years.
Governor Noem, do you have any evidence that it wasn't an honest election? You heard about a tweet earlier this week saying it was rigged. Do you have any evidence at all of widespread fraud? I've spoken with Republican secretaries of state in Georgia, in Arizona. I've spoken to Republican officials across the country. They have come up with zero evidence of widespread fraud.
And that is not true. That is absolutely not true. People have signed legal documents, affidavits stating that they saw illegal activities. And that is why we need to have this conversation in court. The New York Times itself said that there were clerical errors. If you look at what happened in Michigan,
fraud, Governor,
that we had computer glitches that changed Republican votes to Democrat votes. You look in Pennsylvania, dead people voted in Pennsylvania. So, George, I don't know how widespread it is. I don't know if it'll change the outcome of the election. But why is everybody so scared just to have a fair election and find out? We gave Al Gore 37 days to run the process before we decided who was going to be president. Why would we not afford the 70.6 million Americans that voted for President Trump the same consideration? If Joe Biden really wants to unify this country, he would wait and make sure that we can prove we had a fair election.
Governor Noem, Al Gore was behind by about 500 votes in one state, Florida. Joe Biden is ahead in all the close states by multiples.
And look at how many more moving parts we have today.
10,000 votes in Georgia, 27,000 votes in Nevada, almost 20,000 votes in Arizona, more than 30,000 votes in Pennsylvania. That is not close. That is not within the margin that elections are usually turned around on.
And many, many more states are in play this time around. And that's what I think is interesting, is this declaration from some individuals saying it was an overwhelming victory for Joe Biden. It simply wasn't, because you have so many of these states that are still in play. All I'm asking for, George, is that we don't break this country. When you break the process on which we elect our leaders, you will break America forever. So this isn't just about this election. This is about every election in the future. And the fact that the American people, the everyday people who get up and work hard, that are suffering through this pandemic, that have tragically lost family members, that they need to know at least America still functions and we care about doing things right.
It starts with providing evidence. You still have not provided that, but I'm afraid we're out of time today. Governor Noem, thanks for your time.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Trump golfed today. President was back Sunday at the Trump International Golf Club in Sterling, Virginia. Trump was also there on Saturday when ABC News characterized Biden as the apparent winner in Pennsylvania, giving the former vice president the electoral votes he needed to capture the presidency. Take a look at these photos from Donald Trump at the golf course. The election aftermath and the power of vote. Is it really over? After a wild week of waiting, President-elect Joe Biden delivered his victory speech last night in Wilmington, Delaware. "I pledge to be the president who seeks not to divide, but unify," he said. "We have to stop treating our opponents as our enemies. They are not our enemies. They're Americans. This is the time to heal in America." President Donald Trump has not called to congratulate Biden. He has not conceded defeat. He continues to cry foul. But ultimately, I have a feeling judges are going to have to rule, Mr. Trump said Thursday during the counting of ballots in key swing states. "What we don't know is whether a legitimate president unwilling to go down without a fight will get his ultimate wish, a ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court. What we do know is what we saw for ourselves. The candidates framing the stakes in this election as most important of our lifetimes, if not the history of our country. Never mind the threat of the coronavirus. We saw long lines at polling places, ballot cast in numbers demonstrating how intensely Republicans and Democrats both believed that the course of our democracy was indeed on the line. Voters participated was the highest in more than a century. And the outcome. What is next? Extraordinary about this election, Frederic Zerke, a journalist, said. Despite a pandemic, great depression levels of unemployment, huge turmoil, and impeachment before that, you have ended up seeing the partisan divided as deep as rooted as ever. Also, Frederic said, is the author of 10 Lessons for a Post-Pandemic World. In some ways, the pandemic has been a great reliever. In others, it's been an accelerator, he told correspondent Martha. What the pandemic has revealed, perhaps more than anything else, is that what we're really two countries. So, no real movement across the ideological divide. Think World War I, trench warfare, advance and retreat measured in feet, steadily, but a war just the same. New York Times Square boarded up, an unscabbled wall around President Trump's White House, armed protesters. Describe an emotion you've felt in the past week. Fear of what might happen. Yesterday morning at 10:36 Washington time, President Trump, en route from the White House to his Virginia course, tweeted, "I won this election by a lot." Within hours, news organizations, including CBS, called the election for Joe Biden and Kamala. A national street party erupted across the United States. No celebrating the roughly 7 million Americans who voted for President Trump. How many of them no longer trust the legitimacy of the process, such as this man in Georgia echoing the president's words? It almost seemed like they were waiting to see how many votes Trump had and Then they would count the rest to make sure Biden had just enough. What is the long-term cost to our democracy of widespread doubt? Biden said on Saturday, "I'll work as hard for those who didn't vote for me and those who did. Let this grim era of demonetization in America begin to end here and now." How likely is it that Biden will convince nearly half the electorate that he is their president too? And here is a photo from a crowd yesterday in front of DC, as you can see, celebrating. Lots of Biden supporters cheering and celebrating, as you can all see. And here as well, lots of people celebrating yesterday. George W. Bush, congratulations, Biden, as Christie says Trump may soon need to move on. The former president is the most prominent Republican so far to congratulate Biden as Trump refuses to concede the election. Former President George W. Bush on Sunday became the most prominent Republican so far to congratulate President-elect Joe Biden, while former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, a longtime ally of President Donald Trump, suggested that it may soon be time to move on from the president's efforts to contest the election. In a statement, Bush said he called Biden and Senator Kamala Harris, Democrat of California, whom he referred to as the president-elect and the vice president-elect. He said, "I'm excited, extending my warm congratulations," and thanked him for the patriotic message he delivered last night, Bush said, adding, "Though we have political differences, I know Joe Biden to be a good man who has won his opportunity to lead and unify our country." Biden was the projected winner of the presidency Saturday after he secured more than 270 electoral college votes, but Trump has not yet conceded the race, continuing to falsely claim that he won the election, while prompting unfounded claims of voter fraud. If it was so important early on to say to the president, "If your bias for not conceding is that there was voter fraud, then show us," Christie told ABC this week. "Show us, because if you can't show us, we can't do this. We can't back you blindly without evidence." I'm hoping that more Republicans move in the direction of saying not that we don't support the president. He's been a friend of mine for 20 years. But friendship doesn't mean that you're blind, Christie added. Friendship means that you'll listen to somebody, give them their opportunity, and if they don't come forward with the proof, then it's time to move on. Bush said that while Trump has the right to pursue recounts and legal challenges, he appeared to suggest that the efforts would not be successful. The American people can have confidence that this election was fundamentally fair. Its integrity will be upheld, and its outcome is clear, Bush said. Few elected Republicans have congratulated Biden on his victory win. The likes of Senator Mitt Romney, a Republican from Utah, Lisa Grassley, a Republican from Alaska, among them. Some have gone in the opposite direction, like Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican from South Carolina, who urged Trump on Sunday to fight hard and not to concede. Speaking Sunday on CNN's State of the Union, Biden campaign senior advisor Simone Sanders said the White House has yet to reach out to Biden and his team about the election. A source close to the White House senior advisor Jared Kushner said he has advised the Trump to pursue his legal remedies. Meanwhile, Biden's margin in the key swing states are much larger than those that have been overturned in previous states and recounts. Trump is who he is, Romney said Sunday on the State of the Union, and he has relevantly relaxed relationship with the truth. And so he's going to keep on fighting until the every end. Romney, the only Republican senator who voted to convict Trump in his impeachment hearing, said, "But I'm convinced that once all remedies have been executed, if those are executed in a way that's not favorable for him, he will accept the inevitable, but he don't expect him to go quietly into the night. That's not how he operates." Romney also warned Trump to be careful about pushing rhetoric questions of legitimacy of the election. People in the past, like myself, who lost the election, have gone on in a way that said, "Look, I know the eyes of the world are on us. The eyes of our own people are on the institution that we have. The eyes on history are on us," Romney said. Also, on this week, Senator Roy Blunt, a Republican, echoed Christie, saying it's time for the president's legal team to present evidence of malfeasance. Well, what I said on Friday and what Chris Christie said is just a few minutes ago on this show. It is time for the president's lawyers to present the facts, and then it's time for those facts to speak for themselves, Blunt said, adding that it seems unlikely that any changes could be big enough to make a difference. But this is a close election, and we need to acknowledge that. Pointing to Biden's primetime speech Saturday, Blunt said he thought Biden did a great job last night of talking about where the country wants to head. "I expect to see both Vice President Biden and President Trump on the stage on inaugural day, and that will be a powerful message, no matter which one of them is sworn in that day," Blunt said. Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, a Republican, said he has not seen any evidence of voter fraud, pointing out that some of the states Trump is contesting are run by Republicans. "I don't think we're going to see anything that's going to overturn this election," he added. "It's time to get behind the winner of the race. Hopefully the president's team will do the right thing in the end." Sunday afternoon, Rep. Francis Rooney, a Republican from Florida who did not seek re-election, tweeted congratulations to President-elect Biden on a successful campaign. Jeopardy! Host Alex Trebek dies after battling with cancer. Game show host and television host Alex Trebek died Sunday. Jeopardy confirmed in a tweet he was 80 years old. Trebek died at his home early Sunday with family and friends surrounding him. Jeopardy studio Sony said in a statement. Trebek was battling pancreatic cancer at the time of his death. He was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and announced his diagnosis publicly in March of 2019. And all of our thoughts and prayers go to Alex Trebek's family and his friends. And that is it for this evening edition of the News with Riley King. Thank you for watching this evening edition of the News with Riley King. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of the News with Riley King. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Good night and goodbye, everyone.